Welcome to the Richard Onwaje's YouTube channel where we follow up the biggest stories around the Super Eagles, Super Falcons, and in general, sports. Alright, something very interesting I spoke about in the last video. If you followed the last video, it was about 14 minutes. If you've not watched that video, go and watch that video. And I spoke about the fact that we will talk about something very, you know, important because many Nigerians have asked why a particular player is missing from the Super Eagles list. And I believe I could give some clarity around that particular player and why he's not on that list. Now, so if you've not watched the previous video, go and watch previous video so you will understand where we are coming from. But I'll also give a little clear picture why, because many people have been asking why he's not on the list. Now, which list? In case if you're not really with us, we're talking about the Super Eagles match against Gabon, the playoffs, where the list is out. Yeah, 24-man list. And surprising to some Nigerians, a particular player is not on the list, and many Nigerians are asking why is that player missing from the list. So we'll break down the reason why we don't have that player on the list. Let's talk about the player. What the player we're talking about is nobody else but Onauchu. Yes, Onauchu is the beautiful player who plays his football in Trabzonspor in the Turkey League. Now he is doing very well in his club. Now he's doing so well, scoring so many goals in Turkey, and arguably the highest goal scorer, Onauchu is currently the hottest Nigerian striker, the hottest striker in the Turkish league, where he has scored about 8 goals already this particular season. And many, I know, are asking the question, why is he missing from the Super Eagles list? Why do you have a player, for example, like Educate in the striking position? Why do you have a player like the man who plays for Wolves, Tolu? Why not a hot blazing striker who is doing very well for his club in the Turkish league, has scored more goals than Victor Osimhen in the Turkish Super League? Why not have him, come in and play for the Super Eagles, because we need goals. Now let's break this down around Paul Onauchu. Now Paul Onauchu is that tall, him, striker and everything. But the criticisms around Paul Onauchu has always been that he is not a national team player. Now, on several occasions, he has been invited to the national team. Before he even had he came to Southampton, he was doing very well in the Turkish league, where he was scoring several goals at that time. He was also invited to the Super Eagles team, and same thing happened. He did not come to the party. So it's just like you have some players who do well for their clubs or struggle for their country. That is what happens to Paul Onauchu. Paul Onauchu does so well playing for his club, but struggles playing for Nigeria. So when you look at that factor, which is the first factor that's based on what we've heard, based on what we have seen him do, he struggles for Nigeria. Now, there are some reports around the fact that Eduke was not on the list initially. It was Paul Onauchu that was on the list, which will take us to our second point why he was not invited. Now, the coach Eric Schell is hoping to go with players that can be able to switch play. Let me explain that switch play part. Paul Onauchu is strictly your number 9 striker. So he is not that kind of striker that you want to pair. That's number 1. Number 2, he's not the kind of striker that you want to say, okay, go and play behind the other striker. No. Or you want to put him to play in the wing. No. He's a striker that flourishes mostly when you put him in the middle and you have 2 wingers and a midfielder feeding him the ball. So a Paul Onauchu in your team means that definitely you cannot play him and Victor Osimhen together. So one has to play and one has to sit on the bench. So the coach had reasoned all these, put all these factors into play and say, okay, we can't bring him to the team because we should not just bring a player that cannot get the possibility to play. Now, when you talk about someone like Eduke is a winger. He can also play as behind your striker. So, and the Super Eagles needs that creative striker. Don't forget the word creative striker. That striker that can also play behind the main striker. Victor Osimhen is your key man, which is no doubt, no one's arguing that fact. So you're not looking for players that can be able to play with Victor Osimhen, not players that might bench Victor Osimhen. However, we have the issue about let's not depend on Victor Osimhen totally. A Paul Onauchu is just that man that the only way he can really perform well is when you make him your lone striker. That is the way he can perform well. So bring him to the national team right now with the kind of stuff we have already. The question would be, what use would he be into the team? It's not about scoring goals for your club. If he comes in and he can't perform, what's the use? If you look at most of the guys who are on their forward list by Eric Schell, the 24-man list, most of those players are players that can play with other striking options. That means they can play more than one striking options. Even the Adekunle guy, he can play more than one striking option. Adekunle can play from the wing. The guy who plays in Russia also plays as a striker. So they can play different roles. So Eric Shell, knowing that he has a lot of lapses in the midfield, will be depending on his strikers to also some strikers to play that midfield role. So that was why the report came out that the at the first instance, Eduke was not meant to be on the list. They were depending on having the man Paul Onauchu on the list. But when they looked at it and said we need a player that can be able to play other roles in case of incasity, so that is the reason why he's on the list. He's doing very very well for the his club in the Turkish league. But right now the Super Eagles need players who are versatile, players who can play different roles, not a lone striker. You already have a player who can play as a lone striker already, which is Victor Osimhen. I can also pair with players. To mention also, let's not forget the fact that the Super Eagles have also done some kind of pairing. Eric Shadows also kind of pairing, and it has worked for him. He has tried to pair, maybe work for him. He has tried to pair Tolu and Victor Osimhen. He have seen some kind of possibilities. Ako and Victor Osimhen did very well in the last game with I talk about Benin Republic. So I'm not sure he wants to do any experiments or going to go and bring a Paul Onauchu and pair him with Victor Osimhen. It will not work. So he's looking for a striker that can equally pair with Victor Osimhen, because Osimhen is your main man, or the striker or the forward plays on the wing. Paul Onauchu will not be able to pair with Victor Osimhen. Let's us be plain on that. So this is a World Cup playoff where you must win. So if you must win, you must get your selection right. And I think Paul Onauchu not be on the Super Eagles list is a very, very good decision from the coach. What do you think about that? Do you think coach got it right? Not allowing Paul Onauchu, let's call it right, to Paul Onauchu to be on the list. What do you think? Do you think he got it right? I gave two reasons. First of all, he has not done it for the national team. He does it for his club. He's trying for the national team. Secondly, the coach is looking for players who are versatile, forwards who can be able to play any of the forward role comfortably. Don't forget, Victor Osimhen is your main man, so you need a forward. If you're bringing any striker, and that striker should be able to pair up with Victor Osimhen or play on his own. Paul Onauchu will not be able to pair up with Victor Osimhen because of his kind of play. So that is the whole thought around him. So what do you think? Do you agree with my own analysis around this discussion around Paul Onauchu missing from the list? What's your thoughts?